Hollywood called them heroes. America called them gentlemen. But behind closed doors, these famous stars became monsters their wives feared. For years, the studios hid everything: the violence, the threats, the truth. Today, we expose the dark secrets of 11 Golden Age actors who lived double lives. 11. Wallace Beery, the beloved brute with a dark secret. Hollywood loved Wallace Beery because he always played the rough but lovable man with a hidden heart of gold. His characters were loud, tough, clumsy, and strangely charming. In movies like The Champ, audiences cried with him and rooted for him. To the public, he was the harmless tough guy, the grumpy dad type who would eventually show kindness by the end of the story. But behind closed doors, the real Wallace Beery was nothing like the characters that made him famous. Beery's first wife, legendary actress Gloria Swanson, revealed years later that their marriage was filled with violence and cruelty. Swanson described him as a man with a harsh temper, someone who didn't hesitate to use force when he didn't get his way. Their marriage lasted less than 2 years, but it left her with emotional and physical scars she would never forget. In her autobiography, written decades later when she was already at the end of her life, Swanson finally shared the truth. She said Beery once punched her in the stomach while she was pregnant, causing her to lose the baby. It was one of the most painful memories she carried. 10. James Mason, the quiet, calculated cruelty. James Mason had one of the most recognizable voices in Hollywood. Smooth, controlled, and full of quiet power. He played refined villains, mysterious men, and characters who seemed polite on the surface but dangerous underneath. Audiences loved that cold charm. But in his real life, Mason showed a different kind of cruelty. He didn't explode with rage. He controlled, manipulated, and slowly broke down the person closest to him. His wife Pamela Mason described their marriage as a psychological battlefield. Mason rarely shouted or became physically violent, but he didn't need to. His abuse came through constant disapproval, quiet humiliation, and emotional withdrawal. Pamela wrote in her memoir that Mason could make her feel small without saying a single harsh word. He knew exactly how to use silence, coldness, and calm criticism to hurt her. Friends who visited their home said the marriage felt tense and unbalanced. James controlled finances, social decisions, and even the smallest details of their daily life. Pamela was always walking on eggshells, afraid of triggering one of his cold moods. Instead of comforting her or treating her like a partner, he used emotional distance as a weapon. He would ignore her for hours or days, punish her by withholding affection, or subtly insult her intelligence whenever she disagreed with him. The studios protected Mason too. His elegant, gentlemanlike persona was too profitable to risk. No one wanted to believe that the sophisticated, articulate actor who played calm men with sharp minds was using those same traits to hurt his wife behind closed doors. 9. Robert Mitchum, the cool tough guy with a violent edge. Robert Mitchum was the definition of cool. His sleepy eyes, relaxed confidence, and deep voice made him one of the most iconic actors of the 1950s. Whether he played a dangerous villain or a charming rebel, he always made it look effortless. But behind that laid-back image was a man who struggled with alcohol, rage, and unpredictable behavior. Mitchum was known in Hollywood as someone who could snap without warning, especially when he was drinking. He had been arrested multiple times for fighting, public disturbances, and alcohol-related incidents. To the public, this made him seem like a real tough guy, the kind of rebellious, dangerous man people loved watching in movies. But his wife, Dorothy Mitchum, lived through the darker side of that personality. They married in 1940 and stayed together for nearly 60 years, but their marriage was filled with chaos. Dorothy rarely spoke about what she went through out of loyalty and the expectations women of her generation faced. But people close to the couple reported that Robert's drinking often led to violent arguments that escalated into physical confrontations. He became a different person when he was drunk, louder, angrier, and more unpredictable. 8. Desi Arnaz, the on-screen husband. America loved, and the real husband, Lucille feared on I Love. Lucy, Desi Arnaz played the loving, patient, slightly frustrated husband who adored his wife despite her endless comedic trouble. Millions of Americans believed they were watching a real couple in love. The chemistry between Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz was so strong that fans felt like they knew them personally. But the real marriage behind the scenes was much darker, filled with drinking, infidelity, and explosive rage. Lucille Ball never publicly said that Desi physically abused her, but people close to the couple described many frightening episodes. When Desi drank, which was often, he became unpredictable. He smashed furniture, screamed for hours, and destroyed anything around him when his jealousy or anger took over. Lucille dealt with two major problems: Desi's temper and his constant cheating. His affairs were well known in Hollywood. He didn't even try to hide them sometimes, which caused deep emotional pain for Lucille and led to explosive fights. During his worst drinking episodes, friends said Lucille feared for her safety. She never said he hit her, but she admitted that she wasn't safe around him when he was drunk. To make things even harder, Lucille and Desi were business partners. Together, they owned Desilu Productions, a massive TV studio responsible for some of the most important shows in history. Their careers, their company, and their financial future were all connected. Lucille couldn't simply walk away. Divorce would have destroyed everything they built. 7. John Barrymore, the great actor who aged into a nightmare. John Barrymore came from one of America's most respected acting families. He was known for his handsome looks, elegant voice, and incredible talent. In his early career, he was considered one of the greatest actors of his generation. But as he aged, alcoholism consumed him, turning a gifted performer into a dangerous, unpredictable husband. Barrymore married 4 times, and each wife witnessed his transformation. His alcoholism grew worse every year, and with it came violent outbursts, emotional breakdowns, and destructive behavior. By the time he married Elaine Barry, his 4th wife, he was already deep in addiction. She described nights filled with smashed furniture, broken mirrors, and screaming fits that left her shaking. Elaine said she often felt unsafe in their home. When Barrymore was drunk, he became a different person, angry, irrational, and sometimes threatening. She described nights where he destroyed their belongings in a drunken rage, throwing objects, overturning tables, and shouting insults. Sometimes she had to leave the house until he calmed down. His earlier wives faced the same issues. Dolores Costello, his 3rd wife, left him because of his drinking and violent behavior. But back then, women rarely had the freedom to speak about domestic violence. They stayed silent, suffered alone, and hoped the man they loved would get better. But Barrymore never did. 6. George Sanders, the man whose words cut deeper than violence. George Sanders was famous for his smooth, upper-class British voice and the sharp, sarcastic style he brought to his movie characters. Audiences loved watching him play sophisticated villains, men who used intelligence and wit instead of fists. But the same sharp tongue that made him a Hollywood icon became a weapon he used to torment the women in his life. Sanders didn't need to hit. He used humiliation, mockery, and emotional cruelty to break down his partners. His marriage to Zsa Gabor was the most well-documented example of this pattern. Gabor, known for her glamorous lifestyle and outspoken personality, later revealed that Sanders insulted her constantly, in public and in private. He would pick at her insecurities, criticize her appearance, and tear down her confidence with remarks delivered in the same silky tone audiences found charming. His cruelty wasn't loud or explosive. It was cold, clever, and precise. He knew how to phrase an insult so it sounded witty to outsiders, but devastating to the person receiving it. He turned every argument into a psychological game where he always had the upper hand. Friends of the couple said that Sanders treated marriage like a battlefield where he had to maintain control by weakening his partner emotionally. 5. Errol Flynn, Hollywood's swashbuckler with a dangerous dark side. Errol Flynn became a legend playing adventurous heroes, Robin Hood, sea captains, sword-fighting rebels, men who rescued others with courage and charm. To audiences, Flynn was the ultimate romantic action hero. But the real man behind those dazzling roles lived a life filled with abuse, infidelity, and disturbing behavior toward women. Flynn's marriages showed a clear pattern: violence, intimidation, and emotional manipulation. His first wife, Lily Damita, endured years of controlling, unpredictable behavior. Their relationship was filled with loud arguments that often escalated into threats and physical intimidation. Flynn's handsomeness and charm could quickly turn into anger and cruelty when he was drunk or jealous. His second wife, Nora Eddington, faced the same fears. Friends later revealed that Nora lived constantly on edge, waiting for Flynn's temper to explode. He could be charismatic one moment and frightening the next. His third wife, Patrice Wymore, entered the marriage when Flynn was already declining from heavy drinking and drug use. Even then, he used his size, his anger, and his unpredictable moods to dominate the home. Beyond his marriages, Flynn was infamous for his predatory behavior. The most shocking incident came in 1942, when he was tried for statutory rape of two underage girls aged 16 and 17. Although he was acquitted, the trial revealed disturbing details about his lifestyle, his obsession with young girls, his manipulation, and his disregard for boundaries. 4. Frank Sinatra, the romantic voice with a violent temper. Frank Sinatra's voice defined American romance. When he sang, women felt like he was speaking directly to them. He was charming, stylish, and charismatic, the superstar who made hearts melt. But the women who married him saw a side of Sinatra completely hidden from the public. Sinatra had a temper that could become explosive in seconds. His first wife, Nancy Barbato, endured intense verbal outbursts as his fame grew. She stayed silent about many things, but friends witnessed several frightening arguments. When Sinatra moved on to Ava Gardner, his violent behavior became harder for Hollywood to hide. Gardner openly admitted, "He hit me. It wasn't often, but it happened." Their relationship was a storm of passion, alcohol, jealousy, and violence. They fought constantly, sometimes physically, sometimes emotionally, and the arguments often escalated into public scenes. Sinatra's connections to organized crime added another layer of fear. Gardner once said that when Sinatra was angry, his mob affiliations made him even more intimidating. Even when she fought back, because Ava was known for her fiery temper, the power imbalance was obvious. Sinatra always had the upper hand. 3. Rex Harrison, the gentleman whose charm hid cruelty. Rex Harrison looked like the perfect gentleman. His accent, posture, and refined style made him Hollywood's favorite cultured leading man. Audiences adored him in My Fair Lady and Dr. Dolittle, imagining him as intelligent, calm, and compassionate. Behind closed doors, his personality took a disturbing turn. Harrison had relationships marked by emotional cruelty, manipulation, and cold-hearted behavior. His affair with actress Carol Landis remains the most tragic example. Landis, who struggled emotionally, hoped Harrison would leave his wife for her. Instead, he ended the relationship harshly, and the next day, Landis took her own life. Harrison found her, but instead of calling the police, he called his publicity team first. A cold decision that many saw as evidence of how little empathy he had. His marriages were also filled with emotional abuse. Harrison used biting comments, icy silence, and psychological pressure to control his partners. He exercised power not with violence, but with emotional manipulation, the kind that leaves deep scars while remaining invisible to outsiders. 2. Spencer Tracy, Hollywood's respected actor with a violent alcoholic. Spencer Tracy was one of Hollywood's greatest actors. He won 2 Oscars and became known for playing wise, strong, moral men, the kind of characters audiences trusted. But in real life, Tracy battled alcoholism that unleashed a violent, frightening side very different from his on-screen roles. Tracy's marriage to his wife Louise survived on paper for decades, but they separated early because of his drinking. Behind the scenes, he became aggressive, unpredictable, and physically intimidating when drunk. Friends who witnessed his behavior said he could flip from calm to furious without warning. His long relationship with Katharine Hepburn also revealed a darker truth. Even though Hepburn loved him deeply, she admitted privately that when Tracy was drinking, she had to walk carefully, afraid of setting off his temper. She described nights of tense silence, emotional withdrawal, and explosive arguments. While she never publicly claimed he hit her, she said his rage-filled episodes left her genuinely afraid. 1. Bing Crosby, America's favorite father, and his family's worst nightmare. Bing Crosby was one of the most beloved entertainers in American history. With his warm voice, friendly smile, and gentle fatherly image, he became a symbol of comfort and tradition. White Christmas made him a national treasure. But behind the walls of his home, Crosby ruled with fear, anger, and violence. His son, Gary Crosby, revealed the truth in a shocking memoir. He wrote that Bing beat his children regularly, not discipline, but brutal, methodical violence. Gary said Bing used belts, paddles, and a special leather strap designed to cause pain without leaving marks. The boys were even weighed weekly, and if they gained weight, they were beaten. Their mother, Dixie Lee, lived in fear as well. Gary described her as powerless, unable to protect herself or her children because she was also intimidated by Bing's temper. Their home was quiet, tense, and full of fear. Nothing like the warm holiday scenes Bing portrayed on screen. Hollywood studios protected Crosby fiercely. His wholesome image was worth millions. No rumor of abuse was ever allowed to reach the public. Doctors, police, and publicists were all silenced or paid off. After Dixie's death, Crosby remarried and reportedly became calmer in later years, but the trauma he inflicted on his first family never disappeared. 2 of his sons later died by suicide, leaving haunting proof of the damage done behind closed doors.